Today on the Word Preacher Podcast, the burden of Nephi, a murder mystery, and the efficacy of preaching versus the efficacy of disaster. I'm Brett Jensen, and this is the Word Preacher Podcast. All right, our Come Follow Me curriculum brings us to Helaman chapters 7 through 12. So I'd like to start by talking about the burden of Nephi. In the Old Testament, there are several books that are open by describing the call of a prophet as a burden. One notable example is the Old Testament book of Habakkuk, a prophet who learned that the Lord had raised up the Chaldeans in order to destroy Judah because the kingdom of Judah was filled with wickedness. This was a burden, and he describes that he was shocked when he found that that's what was going on. He didn't understand how the Lord could do that. It was a tough piece of knowledge for him to carry. In the book of Helaman, we've already talked a little bit about the missionary efforts of Nephi and his brother Lehi, who had helped convert a huge number of Lamanites. Essentially, their missionary work had ended a mostly continual war that had lasted hundreds of years. Incredible effort. Incredible success. But Nephi comes back to Zarahemla and he finds that not all is well. The people have become prideful and corrupt, and he prays in his garden, which is near this highway, and apparently his prayer attracts a number of people who are kind of watching him, kind of weirded out by what he's doing. Like prayer is a foreign thing, or maybe it was what he was praying. It doesn't necessarily mean definitively one or the other. But this is the situation. He notices the people and he turns to them. And this is our first reading, Helaman chapter 7, verses 13 through 21. And it came to pass that he opened his mouth and said unto them, Behold, why have ye gathered yourselves together, that I may tell you of your iniquities? Yea, because I have got upon my tower, that I might pour out my soul unto my God, because of the exceeding sorrow of my heart, which is because of your iniquities. And because of my mourning and lamentation, ye have gathered yourselves together and do marvel. Yea, and ye have great need to marvel. Yea, ye ought to marvel, because ye are given away, that the devil has got so great hold upon your hearts. Yea, how could you have given way to the enticing of him who is seeking to hurl away your souls down to everlasting misery and endless woe? Oh, repent ye, repent ye. Why will ye die? Turn ye unto the Lord your God. Why has he forsaken you? It is because you have hardened your hearts. Yea, ye will not hearken unto the voice of the good shepherd. Yea, ye have provoked him to anger against you. And behold, instead of gathering you, except ye will repent, behold, he shall scatter you forth, that ye shall become meat for dogs and wild beasts. Oh, how could you have forgotten your God in the very day that he has delivered you? But behold, it is to get gain, to be praised of men, yea, and that ye might get gold and silver. And ye have set your hearts upon the riches and the vain things of this world, for the which ye do murder and plunder and steal, and bear false witness against your neighbor, and do all manner of iniquity. All right, so in spite of all the work that he had personally done, the people right near his home had become apathetic. They have become tolerant of that which God does not tolerate in themselves and in those around them. The consequences of evil making its way into Nephite culture in this way were not insignificant. This is verses 26 through 28. Yea, woe shall come unto you because of that pride which ye have suffered to enter your hearts, which has lifted you up beyond that which is good, because of your exceedingly great riches. Yea, woe be unto you because of your wickedness and abominations, and except ye repent, ye shall perish. Yea, even your lands shall be taken from you, and ye shall be destroyed from off the face of the earth. Very profound words. In the latter days, though there are rumors of war everywhere, for the most part, we live in a relatively peaceful time between nations. We have, similar to these Nephites, set our hearts upon the riches and vain things of this world. Our society is plagued with crimes, and with those who would justify many of these crimes. And there are many people in many countries who have become apathetic. There's a concept in social media that describes this effect when you feel like nothing matters and you're faced with this inevitable meaninglessness that is in the world of politics and culture and influence. They call this being black-pilled. Our prophet today warns of the dangers of these evil tendencies and invites us to get vitamin-pilled. Take your vitamin pills. Be positive. Don't lose faith. We can be an influence for good in our culture. This is very important. It was what was causing the burden that Nephi was feeling, was how many people had turned away from that tendency. All right, so let's talk about the Nephite murder mystery. Predictably, as Nephi was going on, those with cultural authority, in this case this also included some with political authority, with government authority, but not always. It could include just those with cultural authority. They immediately lash out against those who suggest that they might not be right. If we look at Helaman 8, verses 5 and 6, it reads this: Therefore they did cry unto the people, saying, Why do ye suffer this man to revile against us? For behold, he doth condemn all this people, even unto destruction. Yea, and also that these our great cities shall be taken from us, that we shall have no place in them. And now we know that this is impossible. For behold, we are powerful, and our cities great. Therefore our enemies can have no power over us. This is something that could be equated to modern phrases like, who are you to judge us? Or stop with your fear-mongering and conspiracy theories. You see people attack the prophet in just these ways. This did not dissuade Nephi at all. He continued to testify against these judges and finished by declaring that the chief judge had been murdered by his brother, all as a part of the power struggle of the Gadianton conspiracy. So, upon hearing this, a group of these Nephites around his home immediately rushed to verify the claim of Nephi. And they, in fact, found Caesoram, the chief judge, had been murdered. Now, this began to be investigated. And the natural reaction of the people investigating, these judges who were trying to figure this out, was, how could Nephi have known about it, except he was in on the conspiracy? Now, from a secular perspective, there's nothing wrong with this reasoning. In order to have knowledge of something, you need to have seen it or been communicating with people who know about it. You have to have something that provides you with that knowledge in a secular understanding. but from a larger perspective, and perhaps a more important perspective. Nothing is hidden. Privacy is an illusion. Your misdeeds are known, no matter how alone you believe yourself to be. Nothing is truly done in secret. There is one who sees all. And that was the source of Nephi's knowledge. This is really important, and we'll talk about it a little more later. But first, Nephi demonstrates his ability to prophesy. And this is maybe a little bit surprising, because usually you want people to have a little bit more faith before there's a sign given. But sometimes that's not always how it's done. I might even speculate a little bit and say maybe he wanted his people to just be reminded of prophecy, to remember their faith. We don't know exactly. It certainly does not say that in the text. What it does say is that Nephi predicted the exact steps of the interrogation of Siantum, the brother of Caesorum, the chief judge who had been murdered. And this is what it reads in Helaman chapter 9, verses 27 through 36. Has Nephi, the pretended prophet, who doth prophesy so much evil concerning this people, agreed with thee, in the which ye have murdered Caesorum, who is your brother? And behold, he shall say unto you, Nay. And ye shall say unto him, Have ye murdered your brother? And he shall stand with fear, and wist not what to say. And behold, he shall deny unto you, and he shall make as if he were astonished. Nevertheless, he shall declare unto you that he is innocent. But behold, ye shall examine him, and ye shall find blood upon the skirts of his cloak. And when ye have seen this, ye shall say, From whence cometh this blood? Do we not know that it is the blood of your brother? And then shall he tremble, and shall look pale, even as if death had come upon him. And then shall ye say, Because of this fear, and this paleness which has come upon your face, behold, we know that thou art guilty. And then shall greater fear come upon him, and he shall confess unto you, and deny no more that he has done this murder. And then shall he say unto you that I, Nephi, know nothing concerning this matter, save it were given unto me by the power of God. And then ye shall know that I am an honest man, and that I am sent unto you from God. This is exactly the way that it played out. And this demonstrates not just the ability of God to see what has happened with perfect clarity, but also he knows what's going to happen. Now, some people may look at this and say, well, I mean, don't we have free will? Isn't there some sort of choice that Siantum could have had here? How could this be predicted perfectly like this? Of course he had free will. But this is a part of the illusion that we all live in, that we can be alone, that we can do things without being seen, that the prophets, are just making guesses, that the future cannot be seen. God truly is able, though, to know all. He knows exactly what is happening. He knows exactly what will happen. And he informs his prophets according to that which is important for his goals to be accomplished. Most of the time, it is useful for us to not know the consequences of everything that is going to happen immediately, to be removed a little bit from immediate consequence, to give us the illusion that we can do whatever we want. And the importance of that is, of course, so that we have more value in wanting to do good. If a person who believes they can get away with it still chooses to be good, that's more meaningful than a person who doesn't do something bad just for fear that they might get caught. Now, one way or the other, it's still better to not do the bad thing, but providing us this illusion of not knowing what's going to happen, that maybe we can get away with it, that maybe we're alone and no one can see. It's a useful tool in helping us make decisions that are more meaningful. All right, so Nephi gets freed, and he walks away, but the people are still not repenting. Nephi is continually communing with the Lord, and he receives the confidence of the Lord, the power to use the word of the Lord to do anything he wills, and in any way that he sees fit. We would refer to this as the sealing power. If he says that in the name of the Lord something will be, it will be. And he has permission of God to use this power as he sees fit. And it is because he trusts that Nephi is going to use this in the appropriate way. This isn't like the plot of that movie Bruce Almighty, where Bruce uses his power for selfish purposes. This is because this was earned by actually caring about the things that God cares about. He is woven into his character a love of good and a hatred of evil. Now, does this mean that Nephi was infallible? I think maybe a better question is, maybe worrying about the fallibility of God's servants is something best handled by God. Let him make the call. And when he sends his prophets to ask you to do something, maybe just have faith in the Lord. Maybe be grateful that he's trying to send a prophet to tell you something at all. Nephi uses his ability to pretty much say the same thing that he had been saying before. There's almost no change in Nephi's approach. He tells the people that if they do not repent, they will be destroyed. It's exactly what he had said before. This same sort of preaching that had been effective before was suddenly not as effective. Instead of converting thousands of individuals, people reviled him and tried to cast him into prison. And the wickedness and strife among the Nephites actually increased. So Nephi went to the Lord and asked him to send a famine. Instead of having war destroy people, it would be a lack of food. This resulted in thousands dying. Thousands of people in the more wicked parts of the land starved to death. Eventually, they humbled themselves. They came to Nephi and expressed that they realized now that he was a prophet of God. And Nephi, even though he had been given the confidence of the Lord, did not really change how he approached the Lord. He still pled with the Lord to help the Nephites, and he carefully thought about what was the best approach and why he had come to that conclusion. He approached God as though God still sat on a throne. I think you can see a little bit why the Lord would place his trust in Nephi, because he was consistent in all of these different circumstances, something that the Lord seeks in all of us. Of course, the Lord honored his request. The famine was abated, peace was restored, but only for a few years. About 5 years later, the people of Nephi again turned to the ways of Gadianton. And within a short period of time, they were already again ripening for destruction. Ultimately, there are a lot of important lessons we can learn from this. Like, don't wait for a disaster to start to be good. You could be good now. and avoid disasters and all of the other negative things that come with making bad choices, the lack of happiness, the misery that comes from embracing evil. You could just be good now. Save yourself a lot of trouble. Don't act like you can hide anything. Be good in all conditions. It's much better to be consistent. Develop habits of doing the right thing, whether things are going well for you or not. Don't be a part of the burden of prophets. Nephi did not enjoy being around people that had embraced this culture of wickedness, of doing wrong. You don't need to contribute to that burden. You can be faithful. We appreciate all the support for the Word Preacher podcast. Next week, we will look at Helaman chapter 13 through 16, discussing the Lamanite prophet, predicting the coming of Christ. Of course, there's a ton of stuff that we did not get to in this week's reading. Please make sure that you read that individually and with your family. And as always, fight on.